Okay, we are back live. However, we are going to take, we've come back out of in camera, but we're going to take a 10-minute break. So it is 8 o'clock on the nose. We will be back at 8:10 to finish our agenda for the meeting. Thank you very much. 2 more minutes. Okay, just a 1 minute warning that we'll get reconvened here and we only have a few more items and then we can move forward from there. I didn't realize the storm that we were expecting is supposed to be as bad as it's Hydro One alert on my phone, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Anyways.
they're preparing for a winter storm event or something.
Okay, so we're back convened. Back into committee of the whole in open session, and the first motion that comes through is moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that council rise and report from in camera, and that the mayor report the following outcomes from in camera. And the direction was provided to staff regarding non-union compensation review and mandate for collective bargaining negotiations. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item is delegations and presentations, which there are none this evening. And number 7 is the 7.1 council compensation review. And the motion comes forward from Councillor Kelman and seconded by Councillor Lackey that the committee of the whole recommends that council approve the implementation of the recommendations 1, 3, 4, and 5 and option blank of recommendation 2 as proposed by Gallagher Benefit Services Group Canada Inc. in its report Council Remuneration Review Final Report dated March 25th, 2024, and that the committee of the whole recommends that council authorize the implementation of recommendation 4 being a per diem allowance for council members who represent council at formal training / conferences be effective September 1st, 2024. So that motion is now on the table and we have our consultant here to answer any questions that may come from the present. I'm assuming she's presenting. Sorry, please, Jane, if you'd like to come to the podium to present the compensation review. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. There we go.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so once again, Gallagher Benefit Services Canada Group Inc. Was retained to undertake the council compensation review. And we did it in tandem with the non-union review because it's easier to solicit the comparator organizations. But it was really to take a look at the expense policy, the remuneration policy for the elected officials and compare it to municipalities of similar size, scope of responsibilities, and typically geographic area that we're looking at for the comparator organizations. And it's really, intentionally, I'm not using the word competitive because we don't really, we're not recruiting elected officials, so it's not a competitive position that we're speaking about. But we do want to recognize that there is compensation that is important in order to compensate you for the work, the effort, the time, and responsibilities that are required of an elected official to fulfill their role as an elected official. So it's really in the last part being that it's within a fiscally responsible framework. So again, not recommending that it should be, you know, extremely high, but definitely something that is respectable and fair and consistent. The approach that we did for the council review was to create a salary or a compensation questionnaire or council questionnaire for the comparator organizations to complete. We asked comparator organizations for information regarding what is the base remuneration, what is it for, what does it cover, what's the level and the timing for any adjustments to that base remuneration. We made inquiries regarding per diems, when are per diems paid, if at all, and under what circumstances, and then what's the quantum of those per diems. Any allowable expenses, cash allowances, typically those would be vehicle allowances. We don't usually see those kinds of things in the smaller municipalities, but we have it as a question as well. And then the last area is about benefits, whether it be insured benefits or any kind of compensation in lieu of benefits, be it a health spending account or a wellness account, and then access to the pension plan, the OMERS pension plan. So the comparator organizations responded to the questionnaire. We tabulated the results, and that's what we're using for the basis of our observations and recommendations. The municipalities that we included in this review there's 7 of them. They're listed here, very representative of the geographic area. Again, consideration being given to, you know, some metrics such as population, households, taxation, and the geography was a big emphasis. Oops, I just went backwards tonight. And I think I skipped over a slide. Okay. The base remuneration that we looked at across the different organizations, typically they respond, they say the base remuneration is to cover your time, your effort for dealing with constituent situations or issues. That's who you're representing. And then it also recognizes the time that you are spending attending council meetings and committee meetings that such as it may be constituted. 3 of the 7 comparators also do pay a per diem for different circumstances. Typically, they are for attending council meetings. Sometimes we see across the organizations, they'll say, okay, your base pay covers so many meetings in the year. Say 24 meetings in the year. Then if you start to tip into 25, 26, then we'll start paying a per diem for those that bump over that threshold. Or it could be a straight across the board. Every council meeting that you attend, you get a small stipend to help compensate for your attendance on those meetings, some prep time for the meetings and so forth. Or they can define special council meetings only get the per diem, or they have, if it's a specific committee as well. So a variety of different reasons across the sector that use per diems. 3 of the 7 comparators, and they're not the exact same 3 actually, but they also provide a per diem for time that council members spend when they are attending a conference or some kind of a training program or a workshop that takes them away from their home. And the recognition here really is in usually the conferences are several days or a day and a half or 2 days. And it's to compensate those individuals because some of them are yourselves, maybe full-time employees working somewhere, you're taking a vacation day. So it's to help compensate you for that type of an activity, as opposed to a particular meeting, like a committee meeting or a council meeting, which is often in the evening. And
Madam Presenter, I've just made a decision based on some of the recommendations. I'm going to relinquish the chair to
Okay.
the deputy mayor at this point. Just one of the options I'm not comfortable with because it affects me and not council. So I'd rather not be here for that decision.
Okay.
So please don't take this personally.
Not at all.
I just, as I'm reading it, I'm realizing
Okay.
that there is an option there. So
All
I'm
right.
gonna relinquish the chair to the deputy mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I'm crushed. You're leaving me. Okay.
Sorry about that. You may continue.
Okay, thank you. So on the base remuneration, collating all of the information provided, we have 5 of the 7 comparators actually identify a deputy mayor role specifically. So they have the 3 roles as a consistent position. In this instance, now you've just made a liar out of me. I think on the chart here, I indicate for the township that you do not have a role of deputy mayor, but I'm taking it's on an interim basis or as an ad need basis that you step in as deputy mayor. So no intention to say that you don't get paid for that. But 5 of the 7 do have that role. The mayor-based remuneration, when we looked at the analysis and we put them again in rank order to find the median point, we have the mayor's position. When we look at the P50 level, that's 9% below the median rate for the 7 municipalities. The councillor role is the reverse situation. At P50, it is 17.6%. Below, above the median rate. So when we have the brackets in our analysis, it means it's your base is higher than what the median is of the comparator organizations. And when it's a positive sign, it means that you're below the market. So at P60, naturally, if you're already those gaps to market at P50, then the gap to market or the data point at P60 is even more expressed here. So almost approaching 11% for the mayor that is below the P60 mark and 14.4% above for the role of councillor. In terms of the other items that we did some research on and asked comparators to provide information on, access to insured benefits or pension enrollment is typically not available at the township level. That's not an uncommon thing. Pension is not very often made available to councillors or elected officials. Insured benefits, sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not. But in this instance, out of this comparator group, they did not provide benefits or pension. The administration of remuneration policy, which means that you are adjusting, how do you adjust the base rate of pay? Most of the organizations or all of the organizations do adjust the base remuneration annually for the elected officials. Some align it to CPI or what the staff are getting, and some align it to what the union are getting, but predominantly it is aligned to what the non-union staff are receiving as the general practice. We had questions around travel expenses, no vehicle allowances in this employee group or this comparator group. Typically paid for per kilometer for travel expense, and it is typically for travel outside of the municipality, as opposed to there are occasions when we have municipalities that will pay for travel from your home to the council meeting or any business within the boundaries of the municipalities. But in this particular employee group, the comparator group, it is only for travel outside of the municipal boundaries. And it's usually aligned to the Canada Revenue Agency rate of remuneration, which is, I think, 0.451 cents per kilometer. Technology assets. In this instance, we ask, do you have iPads, computers, laptops, cell phones available to the elected officials? The answer is yes, across the board. Then there are questions around whether at the end of the term of office is the asset gifted to the elected official? Do they have an option to buy it out, or is it returned to the municipality? In this instance, it was a bit of a mix across the different municipalities. Typically, we do see, though, that you can have an option to purchase the asset across the board. And cell phone, if it is made available, it is only made available to the mayor in most cases. So wrapping all of the analysis up and giving some consideration to what is available to the township elected officials, we have made some recommendations in our report. We're suggesting that aligning the base compensation to the 60th percentile. This is aligning to the recommendation that we have made on the non-union employee group. And so that we feel that it should be in step with that recommendation. On the base remuneration, the mayor, we are suggesting, because it has a gap to market that is quite significant, that we adjust it by 4%. And it's really just to close that gap, that it was at 10% below the P60 mark. So we're not saying go straight to the P60 mark, because then it would be a much higher increase, but at least to close that gap so that you're at least within plus or minus 5% of the P60 mark. Maintaining the counselor base pay, because already you are relative to the P60, you are slightly above that, or you are above that by 14%. So we say maintain the status quo on that base pay. Implementation, there are some options within the report where we say make it effective January 1st, 2024. So a retroactive adjustment for the mayor's base pay, base remuneration. Or there are some options about phasing it in, where you could actually wait until the next term of office to move the rates of pay up. Or you could do it incrementally between now and the next term of council. And then the maintaining the base pay, once you've established the base remuneration, to continue to apply the equivalent of whatever is approved for the non-union, the staff employee group, that you would apply that percentage increase to the council remuneration as well. The one new, really new option here is to offer the per diem of $150 per full day for an elected official when they are attending one of these conferences or training workshops on behalf of the council. And then conducting a review once per term of council as well, to maintain some of the competitive, well, not competitive, the comparable placement that you would have, to make sure that you are keeping in step with your comparator organizations as well. So doing a review once per term of council. Typical best practices that we have for these reviews is that we would do it towards the end of the term of council, because then you can approve the recommendation, but often it's approved for the incoming council, and that is another option as well. Okay, and I think that's.
Any members of council questions? Councillor Lackey, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. In looking at all the options, first of all, when we were elected, we knew what we were signing up for and for how much we were signing up. So typically, historically, it's as was just mentioned by the presenter, that any increases in council remuneration occur at the end of our time, because typically a new council doesn't want to come in and give themselves a raise right off the bat. So I think what I'm seeing here, the way I see it is I'd really like to see the mayor's salary meet that threshold because of the extra workload that is being done. However, again, when we were elected, this is what we were elected to do. We're already getting a 1% or whatever everyone else is getting increase per year. So I would have to go with the option 2, whereby the remuneration for the mayor meets that criteria at the end of the term. And then the $150 per diem, in my opinion, that's all there really is to talk about, whether it's beneficial. We all know in going to these conferences, price of meals now is atrocious, and we do have lots of expenses that we normally would hand in our receipts. We can still do that, but this makes life much simpler. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of council have questions or comments? Yeah, Councillor maybe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And again, it's interesting when I looked at the mayor's roles here between some municipalities, as in even the town of Gananoque and ourselves, and the population difference, we're not quite double, but it's interesting that the cost is not too much different. But certainly, the mayor puts in many, many hours within the building, as we all know, and to many events around our community. So, she does put in the effort to really put her best foot forward for all of us. So having her remuneration go up is good. And to your point, Councillor Lackey, that the 1% every year we've kind of gotten as again, we tagged it with the union, but holding hours where it is perfectly fine. And the per diem would be another way of compensating for us who do have jobs and do take a day off from time to time to actually attend these things. So thank you.
Councillor Lackey, Councillor Maybe, do you have a preference of options?
I gotta read.
I don't need that answer right now if you
No.
wanna.
Let me read it here. Yeah. I guess it's number 2.
Do you wanna wait or?
I'll wait.
Okay. Councillor Grell, do you wanna comment on this subject?
Given what I read there, option 2 is just fine with me, and I agree with what's been said by Councillor Lackey regarding when we signed on, we knew what it was, and I don't see any reason to. And from what I heard from the consultant, we're already, as councillors, above the P60 rate. So keep it where it is, adjust it as per the non-union, and let's compensate the mayor a little more. Thank you. That's 2.
Thank you. Councillor Kelman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I agree. I would choose option 2 as well.
Okay, thank you.
Option 2.
Option 2, Councillor Jameson. In lieu of the fact I'm sitting in for the mayor, I'm not gonna weigh in on this. We have 5 members of council that have expressed their opinion, and it's unanimous. So option 2 it is. So if I may fill in this, take the liberty to read this. Moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the implementation of the recommendations 1, 3, 4, and 5, and option 2 of recommendation 2 as are proposed by the Gallagher Benefit Services Group Canada, Inc. It reports council remuneration review final report dated March 25th, 2024, and that the Committee of the Whole recommends that council authorize the implementation of recommendations 4 being a per diem allowance for council members who represent council at formal training or conferences be effective September 1st, 2024. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Sure, go ahead.
Just like to thank Jane Mazansky from Gallagher's for being with us tonight and for her fine work on the non-union compensation review and for the council remuneration. It was what I thought was going to be a really painful process, and it was remarkably painless. And it was really nice to have somebody with your expertise on the file, and really, really do appreciate everything you've done for us, Jane.
Okay, so we're moving on to 7.2, which is asset retirement obligation policy, and that the motion comes forward from Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Kelman. The Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the asset retirement obligation policy as attached to Corporate Services 2024-007. So the motion is on the floor. Discussion on the motion. Have I lost Councillor Gurel? Praise. The treasurer worked extremely hard on this policy. He would appreciate at least one question. Okay, Counselor, maybe please go ahead.
Thank you.
Let's defer it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. So we've actually been down this road a little bit no pun intended, with the fire truck that we actually did give away. So as an asset management, but with other assets like our computers and other things that get returned, are they recycled or as asset management? There's a lot of things that have to be replaced, but what's happening with them after they are replaced?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So this policy is different than our asset disposal policy. This is a PSAB accounting standard, and it only arises when there's a legal obligation. So what they're trying to capture, right now, we have a similar one for landfills, and they will be captured in this. It's more meant to be around, they want us to recognize on our financial statements that if we own a building that has asbestos, for example, and there's a cost of $100,000 to remediate that in 30 years when the building's no longer useful, they want us to recognize that $100,000 liability. That's kind of the cliff note. So other assets that don't have legal obligations and how we dispose of them, that's a completely separate, and that's up to internal. This is a PSAB accounting standard that has to be in our financial statements for 2013. Otherwise, we will not get a clean audit, which brings its own issues. So it's important that this get included in the
The
statement.
agenda. So thank you for the clarity. Any other questions for our wonderful treasurer? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brock.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Phil brought up a very interesting point there, and I know it's accounting. We have the issue with the landfill closure that from the 1970s. I forget the road it's on. Red Horse Lake, is that possible? How
It's
do
one of them.
how do you evaluate then, Phil? Because we were given a pretty large number to remediate it, and I think that's what council approved. Is that the number you would use in the accounting? Thanks.
So pre-existing closed landfills fall under a different accounting standard. This policy will apply to the existing open landfills. We'll transition from our current liability in the financials to the new ARO policy. In terms of landfills specifically, from an accounting point of view, it'll recognize the expenses earlier than the existing standard, whereas now the closure and post-closure costs are recognized as the landfill gets used up on a proportional basis. Now it'll be kind of straight lined over the remaining useful lives and the expense. But existing closed landfills, that's a completely separate matter.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? See, you didn't get off that easy, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Okay, any unfinished business, number 8? Go ahead, Counselor, maybe.
It's been a while, Madam Mayor, since I've asked about a 401 light and the CN
Follow up.
follow-up. Yeah, thank you.
So there's a couple of things. The 401 stoplight, our director Holiday is not here, and I'm not sure if he's any correspondence with MTO, but we can follow up with that. As far as the CN stuff, I believe that is ongoing legal right now between the county and CN as well. I've spoken to the chair of Roma, who is Robin Jones, Mayor of Westport, to actually come and talk about some of the things that Roma is doing. And that was one of the things. So she was going to come and do a delegation in the coming months to explain what Roma's role is in that, so that the general public may understand better why we go to Roma and are part of Roma, but also some of the good work that they do on housing, on physician recruitment, some of the things that they actually champion for rural communities across the province. Okay. Any other unfinished business? Go ahead, Councillor Jameson.
Just wondering if we've seen any progress on the Lyndhurst Bridge with respect to the traffic stopping, slowing
Well,
efforts.
I believe that has been included in the design work. So the traffic, the common solution that we came up with was to have basically a stop sign with flashing light that they have to stop while the pedestrian gets across the bridge safely, and vice versa. So they're in the process of designing that, so it doesn't look horrific. Yeah, it's decided to move forward with that because it was made clear at county that not having safe egress for pedestrians was not acceptable. And in light of the heritage nature of the bridge, that nobody wanted to go to the significant expense of putting a causeway or anything like that over it. So that is forthcoming. So any design, I'll make sure that it's shared with this council. Okay. Sorry. Oh, Angie, go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just related to that, was there any conversation about speed reduction in the village?
Not to my knowledge. And if there is a request for a speed reduction, we didn't have a motion come forward recommending a speed reduction in Lyndhurst, did we? It was combined. Sorry, I will follow up on that. That is entirely my fault. Just remember the pedestrian part. My guess is that during the design, they have to include that as part of their rationale as well, but I will follow up specifically about that. Thank you for the reminder. Any other unfinished business? Other business? Maybe I'll speak about this before I go into the mayor's update. Under other business, I was requested to attend a rural economic development roundtable discussion this afternoon in Smith Falls, with the Honorable Minister Thompson, Minister of Agriculture, at the Valley Heartland boardroom, which in itself is spectacular. If anybody gets a chance to go, it was a great turnout of lots of different agri businesses, as well as small businesses, rural businesses like abattoirs and things like that, of those nature. And the really great opportunity to speak with all of these individuals about how we can foster more rural economic development was awesome. There was a lot of talk about water, wastewater, and what it can be, what it can do to small communities. It also, there was a lot of discussion about agriculture, landholders who really do not want to see more development in designated areas. So the Lear project that's been undertaken by the county in regards to designation prime agricultural land is really important, because they know that once people start building in really rural areas, even though it might be marginal lands, that once neighbors start to move in, often that's where the complications also start. So having said that, the ag people are in support of the smaller villages that have access to these water, wastewater facilities. And we had Kelly Pender there from County of Frontenac, who was talking about the two cutting edge developments that are proposed for Verona and Charlotte Lake, which do not have water and wastewater, but have a new system through Newterra, which is a company out of Brockville. So it was a really great discussion about how the provincial government can kind of get out of the way, because Kelly Pender was very clear that the process that they have undertaken to get EA approved, environmental assessment approved, it's like they have to prove the technology that Newterra system has proved time and time again is used around the world globally. We're actually putting them at a disadvantage because they're not able to move forward because they have to prove the efficiency of the technology. So anyways, it was great. The minister definitely heard us. The extra good news is that the PA to agriculture is John Jordan from up that way as well, the Smith Falls area. So he was just appointed as of Thursday. So this was his first official engagement in his own writing. So yeah, it was a great day. And our red grants in the past were also showcased again about how we can support small rural businesses, and other small rural municipalities can ask us how we did it, and we're happy to share. It's the secret sauce, if you will. So it was good. Any other business? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just a question on Central Frontenac. Who is it that's causing a hurdle? Is it the Ministry of Environment or the province?
Both.
Both.
So the Ministry of Environment are the main stumbling blocks because of the EA.
Right.
Because they're trying to deal with wastewater and water issues. So drinking water systems, as we all know, are a big challenge for municipalities, whether it's through a standpipe or a seniors complex. But the Nuterra system is making sewage potable. It's essentially the water that comes out the end of these systems is supposed to be drinkable.
Right.
And so they're making them go through essentially the same thing that you would have to go through to set up a brand new municipal water wastewater system. Meanwhile, they're plug and play.
Right. But the frustrating part is Nuterra's been around for years making this system. It's all over the world.
Yep.
From that plant in Brockville. Quite frankly, some of the people that are in these positions need to get up to speed to what's available to them. It shouldn't be, in this case, Central Frontenac's fault that they aren't aware or are ignorant of what's out there.
Well, and that was the discussion today.
Good.
Kelly Pender was very clear that the province, municipal affairs and housing, Ministry of Environment, they're pushing everybody for more development, and they're sitting on their laurels, and different ministries aren't talking to one another, which is another whole interministerial challenge. But nonetheless, it was a very frank discussion about that and how this can't be how everybody's going to get dealt with, because that is why we don't have enough houses for people to live in. This is a perfect example. So any other business? So I have none. Any notices of motion? I have Councillor Kelman and then Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. And for you, I will be bringing a notice of motion to council next week regarding the vacant lands at 405 Lyndhurst Road by the bridge that we had an information report recently, just for next steps.
Okay. And Councillor Lackey, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be bringing one forward asking council to consider asking staff to reestablish the Recreation Committee using the same composure and mandate.
So the joint rec committee with Gananoque.
Not joint, just our recreation.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the clarity. Okay. Any other notices of motion? Okay, we'll move on to the mayor's update. I will be brief as possible. Calling all community organizations, the community grants program spring intake deadline is it's only a few days away. Applications are due April the 7th. April 20th is Volunteer Recognition Day, and thank you to all the volunteers who serve our community. We really appreciate the hard work you do to make all of our communities a better place to live and grow. And just to add to that, one of the things that was discussed today at economic development was the importance of welcoming newcomers into the community. Westport had sort of a welcoming committee where the new people who bought the new houses in the new subdivision, that they were brought into the fold, and people would go over, introduce themselves, ask them to come out to community events or what have you. And the transition since those new houses have been built is that I believe the statistic is almost 80% of the volunteers now in the village are the newcomers. So it really has a way to flip. And it's really important that we do make people feel welcome. I know that the village of Sealy's Bay does a great job of this. I saw it in process at Sabera's annual general meeting with some of the new business owners they invited to come out and speak about their business. So just an important thing to underscore, that if we see somebody new, that we do try to make them feel welcome, because they could be our future volunteers. Councillor Lackey, our Director of Operations and Infrastructure, Dave Holliday, our Manager of Roads and Fleet, Aaron Hatton, and I are attending the 2024 OGRA conference in Toronto, April 21st to April 24th. So that's in a couple of weeks. And April 22nd is National Earth Day. Make sure you take part in activities such as picking up litter, planting trees, and helping our community to be a happier and healthier place to live. We want to hear from you again to see if TLTI is communicating effectively with the community. Please take a few minutes to provide us your feedback by completing the survey, which can be found on our website. The deadline to complete the survey is April 30th. Your feedback is appreciated. Any other announcements? Or I believe the plant sale on this now is not until May, but anyways, go ahead. Sorry, microphone. Oh, good point. Sorry, this Friday evening at 5 p.m. we will be having a sod turning event at the new fire hall. So everybody is welcome to come and celebrate the shovel in the ground and the start of something big for our communities in the north. Majority of council will be there and staff and some local dignitaries and some special guests. So if you'd like to come, we're asking any and all media if they'd like to attend as well. And yeah, so it'll be a great day for TLTI. Any other things that are going on in April that we haven't identified? Okay. Moving on to adjournment, moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that the committee of whole adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Thank you, everybody.